Welcome back to Fast Market on the TD Ameritrade Network. I'm Tom White, joined by my co-host Kevin Hinks. But let's bring in our next guest, and that's going to be Andy Swan for our cash tag segment. Andy, co-founder of LikeFolio.com. Welcome back to the show.
Hey, thanks.
All right, we're talking Crocs. I know you guys hit this one out of the park over the last couple years. The stock's pulled back pretty significantly here. Going into this earnings, shares are down about 21% this year and off about 45% from those all-time highs that we saw last November. Small share float, but what are you guys seeing as far as data goes? Is it still positive?
No, not really. So Crocs, it really benefited from the pandemic. Like a lot of companies, especially in the comfort space, people were doing a lot more from home and a lot less socially and out and about, where they had to look really nice, and that kind of benefited Crocs. Now, I'm not one of those people that likes to dunk on Crocs from a fashion perspective, but I'm also not known for my fashion taste. but I will tell you, all of these comfort shoe names are down significantly in terms of overall brand mentions in the LikeFolio universe. Skechers down 20%, Uggs down 24%, Crocs down 26%, Converse down 36%. The one outlier that we see is a company called HeyDude Shoes, plus 38% year over year. Really popular brand, really comfortable shoes. And this is a company that Crocs has just announced an acquisition of for $2.5 billion. I think it's a really smart acquisition. It gives Crocs a diversification in its offerings. These are really comfortable shoes, but also a little bit more, acceptable in social circles and so on than some of the Crocs clugs or whatever you call those. But HeyDude gives them, I think, a real breadth to their offering, and it's a really popular brand. So I think Crocs, what we're seeing is, like the rest of the sector, is struggling right now compared to a really big ramp up in 2020 and 2021. Those comps are really tough. I think they're going to have a tough time exciting investors with any earnings calls coming up soon. But the acquisition of HeyDude makes me pretty positive on the name in the long term.
Yeah, Andy, let's get to the good news first. This purchase of HeyDude is a really good purchase for them. Number one, this company it diversifies what Crocs is doing. They're profitable and growing, right? They do this is like a nice diversification of what Crocs does in terms of their shoes. So the HeyDude acquisition, you're right. This is nothing negative about that. Now, let's get to the brunt of it, which is Crocs, or let's call them what they are. They're foam clogs. And these are the ugliest shoes ever put on this earth. And I compare Crocs to sweatpants and Velcro on shoes. And we had a rule, I think when grown men start wearing sweatpants, they've given up on life. And they've stopped. They've got the expandable waistlines and they've just given up. Velcro on children's shoes, that tells me the parents are lazy, right? That they can't tie their kids' shoes. Crocs, believe me, I've got a couple pairs in my basement for my children. They are hideous. And I don't like what they present to the world in terms of what you look like. But everyone tells me they're unbelievably comfortable and have utility in the world, like for nurses and cook staff and things like that. Andy, convince me how completely wrong I am with these foam clogs, because what I understand is if you go to a freak show and you're wearing clogs, they let you in for free, Andy.
Well, look, I think with the clogs, you're probably right. It's not necessarily the best look. Sometimes can be a little bit of an ironic look. They do have other styles of shoe that I'm not going to convince you on. But the thing that made Crocs great, that really turned the corner for Crocs, was the partnerships that they did with very popular personalities, and the development that they were able to do in rolling out those branded custom shoe lines with really big personalities, everyone from country music to rappers to, to sports figures, you name it. Crocs was able to do those deals and roll out the product quickly, because I think one of the things we tend to miss about Crocs is, yes, the base product can be ugly, but it is also very customizable and really easy for the company to roll out new versions of that product that improve upon that base, kind of downer experience. And so I think with HeyDude shoes coming in, they'll be able to bring that type of expertise, that type of, influencer partnership mentality, and really expand what both of the brands are able to do on a global scale. So I think that'll work out well for them. But yeah, look, I agree. It's probably not the best move to wear clogs, to a business meeting, and that's what the company's up against right now, because people aren't refreshing their Crocs; they're refreshing the shoes that they actually wear out socially.
Yeah, and that brings up another point to, Andy, with the pandemic in full force, people were okay to wear those things at home. And Kevin, I don't know, were you talking to my better half about the looks of those Crocs? Because she agrees with you on that full-heartedly and won't allow me to ever have a pair. But that being said, Andy, as far as the data goes, and you mentioned, the collaborations that they have with stars and the people that buy this stuff that they're, selling on their social media platforms. When you look at, the direct-to-consumer and the amount of sales that you've seen some of your sentiment data fall off for Crocs. Does this mean that HeyDude's going to be their next step, their next growth area? Because remember, they had to start using flights to get their products to consumers during the supply chain issues. It's going to cost them some money. So when you look at that, the diversification is needed at this point based on what your data says.
Yeah, I think the diversification is needed, and I think Crocs, this is a company that we were bullish on at $10. It ran all the way up to $150. So that's a 15x or 10x even where it's at right now. And so when you see that, you have to take a step back and you have to say, okay, do I think this is another 10x from here? Well, the company's much more mature than it was then, and now it's facing those maturation type of issues where they have to diversify their offerings. They've probably made the run they're going to make with their original platform, and so they have to diversify their offerings and lean on their expertise in marketing, distribution, and creating products that are very comfortable and high quality, durable, for the cheap, and they're very good at that. And I think they can take that to another brand and expand globally. Then that's how you get Crocs from $100 to $200, not $1,000. So I think that the big gains have been made in Crocs. Very happy to have participated in that, but from here it gets tougher, like it always does for these companies, and we'll have to see how Crocs responds. Spring and summer are always the big times of the year for this. That's when LikeFolio data really shows us what's going on. And, right now, cautiously optimistic that they'll be able to turn things around in 3 to 6 months' time. But we'll be back on with you guys to make sure when it's time.
Yeah, and, I still see the positive sentiment data for this company, but you've seen a really big pullback in the number of mentions on this one. So is your earnings score positive or negative? I know you said it's relatively neutral.
Yeah, relatively neutral on earnings. I think if anything, the narrative's kind of working against this company. They're going to have a lot of questions to answer about this acquisition. So it's a tough one for investors to get really excited about. But I think as we get into the spring and summer, that type of attitude might change, that narrative might change, and there might be another opportunity at that point.
Awesome. Great stuff, as always, bringing the data for us, and we'll to see what those earnings say. I think it's going to be about guidance moving forward and their costs. All right, Andy, great stuff, as always. Have a great day.
Thanks, you too.
All right, that's Andy Swan, the co-founder of LikeFolio.com.